Before you buy a home computer.
Electronic games being heralded by folks in the trade as this year's holiday bestseller.
Children have skipped school or stolen money to play the games.
I'll be looking at the electronic game craze.
And at the end of the tape, I'll be back to tell you how to safeguard your computer.
Why is there not a transition there? Hello and welcome back to Streamer News. Just making sure everything is running as it's supposed to. Hello. Welcome to Streamer News Season 2, Episode 2 for August 7th, 2020. I am rushing into this episode. I got like 1 hour of sleep last night. Nothing could make me fall asleep for some reason. I just kept realizing I was awake at various points throughout the night and morning and afternoon. Never really got any sleep. We've got some big topics today, including Twitter and YouTube channels getting hacked and not a whole lot being done about it. We've got Patreon lawsuits. We've got Dr. Disrespect going live literally at this exact moment, unfortunately. So rip my viewers. And we've got a few other big ones, and I am excited for today's show. Let's jump into it, shall we? Because we got a lot to cover. So, first and foremost, if I can do this here. First and foremost, there was originally, a couple weeks ago, a big hack on Twitter, well, hack in quotes, on Twitter, wherein a bunch of verified accounts, including those of major artists, musicians, politicians, and things like that, where their accounts were compromised, renamed, and were tweeting out Bitcoin scams, getting people to send potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin to these addresses, which was, fraud. They ended up arresting 3 people responsible for it, and it was basically just kind of boiled down to a big social engineering thing where they just basically called, pretend to be someone else, and got access to some tools that they shouldn't have had access to. Whatever. Nothing super special. But then following that, YouTube channels that were verified started getting hacked and streamed to, pretending to be Elon Musk SpaceX, streaming a different Bitcoin scam, gathering a lot of money. And that includes good friend of the channel, John Prosser from Front Page Tech. They somehow bypassed his two-factor authentication. I reached out to him and asked to find out if he was using SMS verification or the app, and did not get a response. Everybody should not be using SMS two-factor authentication at this point. I don't know how they bypassed it, what it is, but they sent him a form and said that they may hear back within a few weeks. And this is what happens when you're a big channel, but you're not a big enough channel to get a direct line of access to YouTube support, is that you kind of get put on the back burner. And in situations where you need an immediate fix for your YouTube channel, you could get completely screwed. They completely deleted his videos, and are streaming this big scam, ruining, his channel image. And the best answer they got was within a day, and still wouldn't shut down the stream or anything else, which is pretty freaking crazy. And of course, he highlighted a headline that featured his channel, because holy cow. Still not fixed as far as I'm aware. He ended up launching a temporary second channel to stream to it. If you run a big channel, it's time to invest in the YubiKeys or the Google FIDO authenticators or what have you. I have ordered myself, so we can try to lock things down more so over here. And you should be obfuscating your channel email address and phone numbers and things like that, so that they're not attached to obvious things, because stuff like this is pretty scary. Moving on to the next topic, of course. Oh, yeah, this was another article about the hack. Anyway, moving on to the next topic. Google has partnered with Parallels, which is a company that develops Mac software to run Windows apps, to now run Windows apps side by side on ChromeOS. Initially, it's going to start with basically running a Windows VM in ChromeOS, which is pretty goofy. What I loved was the quote here. The group product manager for ChromeOS gives an analogy that compares ChromeOS to a fancy Dolby Atmos home theater system and Windows to running an old wedding video on VHS. That's a big group of, a big amount of shade to be throwing at Windows. Pretty amusing. Initially, like I said, it will start as a VM that basically runs inside ChromeOS and just, runs Windows apps. They will have options to basically, direct specific file types to the apps within the Parallels VM, which is pretty handy. But in the future, they do hope to get the feature, what's it called? I forgot the name of it. Coherence, like they have on Mac, where you can literally just run Windows and ChromeOS apps side by side without needing to run the entire desktop VM and things like that, which would be pretty neat. But we'll see when that actually comes. Next up, we have a couple bits of news real quick about Halo the Master Chief Collection. Huge fan of Halo 3 and Master Chief Collection, and this has been a blast getting to play Halo 3 customs pretty much every night over on our Discord server, so join us at eposfox.gg/discord. Supposedly, they're getting crossplay by the end of 2020, but they only have 4 months left, so I think that's a pretty ambitious goal, but supposedly crossplay is coming in 2020, and, well, that's not the right image, and they're getting custom skins and ODST weapons from Halo ODST as soon as Halo 3 ODST drops. So that is pretty freaking exciting. Next topic is about Microsoft and TikTok. And we actually got an update super late last night that everyone was freaking out about. And I think people are taking it in the wrong direction, IMO. So initially, of course, after the TikTokers went and essentially messed with Trump's rally that he had and bought up all the tickets and no one showed up and all of that, he immediately started claiming that for privacy reasons, he was going to start trying to ban TikTok because of Chinese spying reasons, which are a concern and do exist, but I think they're a little blown out of proportion, especially given the direction that this is going, which we'll talk about in a second. But also it was very clearly they ticked him off, so he's going to go and do this to try to punish those people versus him actually focusing on the real issues. But Trump has been pushing to ban TikTok from the United States. And essentially this is leveraging a Chinese company to divest their investments in a company, which is incredibly ironic for Trump of all people to be doing. But Microsoft has been in talks with the government and with ByteDance, which is the owner of TikTok, to buy TikTok and operate it within the States, which is pretty crazy. And they have said multiple times that they are committed to buying TikTok, pending a security review and all of that, and that they will make sure, once acquiring TikTok, that they will make sure that all of your data is removed from foreign servers. I doubt they'll be able to pull that off, but that's something that they're doing. A lot of people are concerned that they will make it a paid service. A lot of people are making comparisons to Mixer, which I'm not sure is entirely legit, as So Microsoft bought Beam to make Mixer to compete in a space with a new service that didn't already have any footing on the market. So that sets them up for failure in a lot of directions. And there was a lot of reasons within that as to why Mixer failed. Mixer buying TikTok is already the champion. They are already the number one in this field, in this space or whatever. So it would be really, really hard for them to mess it up bad enough that they then turn around and ruin TikTok. So in theory, this could be a good thing for those of you who just want TikTok staying in the US. However, we're going from the Chinese supposedly spying on Americans through TikTok to, which doesn't really directly hurt Americans whatsoever. Like, China's not going to do anything to you based on what they're spying on you with, to putting it in the hands of the US government to spy on you with, which is a lot more problematic in terms of contextually to your day-to-day life, which is pretty amusing to, I guess, cheer for. But then, as a update that happened literally in the middle of writing this, that article is paywalled, Donald Trump signed executive orders scheduling to ban TikTok within 45 days, which is about right when the Microsoft buyout deal is supposed to happen. So basically, if that doesn't happen, Trump will ban TikTok. But also they're doing the same thing, banning transactions to WeChat. And a lot of people got really confused and blew this out of proportion, and even Slasher tweeted out that this affects Tencent and that he may have, unintentionally tried to ban Riot Games, Epic Games, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the case. The actual executive order, if you read it, and it's only like 5 pages, it's specifically banning transactions to WeChat. It mentions Tencent as the owner or part owner of WeChat, along with ByteDance, who is a part owner of TikTok. But at no point does it say banning transactions to Tencent. Like, at no point is that actually quoted. And frankly, they didn't even really define what transactions mean. Is it just talking about exchanging money? Is it talking about actually using, exchanging the service itself? We're not sure. Overall, this is going to be pretty hard to enforce and very messy, because WeChat is how Americans contact their families over in China and vice versa. WeChat is extremely important over in China, and if you have relatives, friends, family in China that you want to communicate with, WeChat is the social network to do this. So anyone studying abroad or living abroad or whatever, it's just cutting off like a layer of communication. And certain businesses are even built on the back of WeChat as a communication structure. So I really don't see this going as smoothly as Trump might imagine, and I really don't necessarily think that it has any direct impact on Tencent whatsoever. But it will be an interesting 45 days, to say the least, at least with Microsoft trying to buy it and things like that. And along with all of this, Instagram has rolled out their own Instagram Reels feature to try to compete with TikTok's functionality. And honestly, it just went to show that Instagram has no clue what makes TikTok work, because Reels is nothing close to TikTok, and all they did was completely bungle up the story creating UI on Instagram with this new option, because now half the other story options are moved to this other sub menu. It's a complete disaster. So I really think Instagram has kind of goofed or jumped the shark a little bit in trying to make that happen, and I don't know that it will be as successful as they might think. You would think, of all places, Instagram and big Facebook money would be able to figure this out, but no, they seem completely incompetent at doing so somehow. Next topic, we have Nvidia is actually rumored to be scheduling to buy ARM. ARM being the creator of ARM processors, chip designer, make processors for companies like Qualcomm, Apple, Samsung, Huawei, Apple's AX12 Bionic, blah, blah, blah. A lot of those are ARM based, at least initially. And Nvidia is supposedly scheduled to buy them, or at least planning to buy them, or talking to buy them, for $32 billion, which would make it the biggest computer chip buyout in history, but could also bring up a bunch of regulatory involvement to make sure that it's not a monopoly or something. What this could mean is we start seeing Nvidia CPUs in some form or fashion. Now, they wouldn't be competing in the x86 line, so it wouldn't be like Intel versus AMD versus Nvidia. It would still be Nvidia making the ARM chips and stuff. But it would be incredibly ironic with Apple not supporting Nvidia or not getting along with Nvidia on the GPU side of things for their Macs and things like that, to suddenly have to work with Nvidia for the processors. So there's a lot that could happen there that would be quite amusing. But we'll see if it even goes through, because that would be quite the big ordeal. Real quick, I wanted to give a preview of content coming up. Venn, the 24/7 game content related streaming network that I talked about last time. It's kind of like a G4 spiritual successor. They actually started launching this week, and I am actually working on a very big video essay with regards to Venn and the content, what it means for streaming content, what it means for streamers, all of that. I'm really happy with what I have to say about all of this, and I think there's a lot that can be learned. Even if you don't like the Venn content itself, it will be interesting to watch. But overall, it's basically like G4 Part 2, just less familiar faces that you watched for 12 years or whatever. So I am excited to talk about it. I would be interested to hear, I just dropped an Allen wrench. I would be interested to hear your all's thoughts on it once that video comes out, because I want to see how this kind of content, the Venn content, is actually perceived before I fully, go all in on whether or not I think it is the future or what have you. We're going to run a quick ad break here so I can get a drink. It is very toasty here in the studio. And then I have a couple cool unboxings and products to talk about before we get to some of our really big topics for today's stream. Stick with us.
So you've been searching, hunting for that perfect stream element, for that perfect layout that will make your stream truly professional looking, but you don't have the budget once you find it. Well, no more. Nerd or Die is having a summer sale. I was about to call it a Steam summer sale. They're not Steam. You can get 20% off store-wide, including their bundles of graphics using coupon code SUMMER20 and my link in the description below. You can get $5 stream layouts, and you can get their new Clutch alert pack for super cheap as well to really supercharge your live stream today. Head over on to eposvox.gg/nerdordie and use coupon code SUMMER20. You ever look at the Elgato Stream Deck and think, man, I wish I could have all of that power in the palm of my hands? Well, now you can. Install the app on iOS or Android, connect your Stream Deck software on PC, and start setting up your program launchers, CPU monitors, button to control your key lights, and stream scene switching, all within minutes. It doesn't get much easier than this. Try it free with the link in the video description.
Sega is rolling out a new video game console this week.
It's one world. Why view it through two windows? Panasonic introduces the 36-inch SVGA TV.
Honestly, I have no idea why the ad's playing so quiet for you all. I checked it before I went live. It was playing fine. I think it's the audio monitoring process that makes it really quiet, because I have it played I have it set to audio monitor so I can hear when it's playing. So I will experiment next time with that not being set through audio monitoring, but it shouldn't be that low. Super, really weird. But yeah, someone mentioned during the last topic that Intel is supposedly outsourcing to ARM for the next CPU manufacturing. That's not something that's ever been confirmed or announced. And if anything, they would be going to TSMC. They would be tapping TSMC to make their chips. ARM doesn't really make x86 processors, so Intel wouldn't be working. I'm pretty sure that ain't the direction that it's going to go. So just to cover that base there real quick. I don't think that's what they're going to do. So I wanted to talk about a couple products here for today's unboxing segment before we get to the topics. And the first one you might actually notice is sitting behind me. Last week we talked about Logitech and Herman Miller joining forces to build the most expensive gaming chair you could ever possibly imagine. And in that, I teased that a company called Respawn was actually making gaming chairs, and they had some of the typical racer style, but they were making an ergonomic one. And part of the reason I'm so rushed into the stream was I spent the last 20 minutes before the stream started building the Respawn gaming chair. Or ergonomic gaming chair. This is the Respawn Specter, and actually I can switch on over here to bloop, this right here. So this is their Specter gaming chair. Typically, all of their gaming chairs are the racing style leather chairs, whereas this one is completely mesh based. So we've got a mesh back, extra little lumbar support here, and actually a mesh bottom, which a lot of the mesh chairs don't have a mesh bottom. They still have a padded bottom like my Alera Illusion that I typically recommend over here does. So I'm still getting used to the mesh bottom, as I typically want to sit with my foot up under me, and that is very painful here with the hard plastic and mesh compared to a soft bottom. So it definitely kind of locks you into a way of seating, and I don't know that this chair is built for the most tall of people, because when I sit in it, the headrest is not even coming up to my skull. So height-wise, I'm not entirely sure, but it is still a pretty nice looking chair. It's got full armrest adjustments. It's fully mesh, and it's really comfortable so far. The jury's still out with, how it compares to my ergo chair, as I gotta spend some time in it to get used to it. But first impressions of this chair are really, really nice. So it looks really nice. It looks pretty cool. I don't like having a branded name behind me. Hopefully I can get a headrest with my logo on it or something. But comfort wise, it's all right. I'm looking for a little bit more adjustment in the seat position, because right now it feels like my butt's squished between the back and the base. And so I haven't fully looked at all the different controls for it, because like I said, I just built it before I started the stream. So hopefully there's a little bit more adjustment than I currently have, but I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I don't know the max weight capacity. It probably says on their website. I have it linked in the doc if you want to send out the link. Secondly, talk about two products that, again, I'm supposed to have a review on soon. They just launched last week. but I haven't had time to finish up my review. These are new NDI devices, 4K NDI devices from Bird Dog, and these are the smallest 4K NDI products currently on the market. So these are the new NDI Flex, or Flex 4K. There's the normal Flex 4K in, and then there's the backpack, which basically slots in a battery slot to fit a little bit better in your camera. And I'll just kind of put it all back in the box here for a moment. You have here this tiny little box, looks like a little capture card, it's so small, and it takes your HDMI in, and then it has DC power pass-through if you want to use it to power your camera as well. It's got NDI Ethernet output or PoE support, quiet cooling fans, RS-232 control if you want, and headphone jack, and it can be easily mounted to your camera. They have little camera mounts and things like that that attach to it here, and it's just a super small 4K NDI encoder. They also have a decoder option that's coming a little bit later. Unfortunately, they are separate boxes for decode and encode, which is a little bit unfortunate, but that's pretty cool. And then, like I said, this other one is just the backpack model, which basically slots in a battery slot. If it will open here, there we go. They do come with stickers. I love stickers. That totally doesn't matter to the product, but I love product stickers. So that's a win in my book. You can see here, it basically can fit in like a basic camera battery sled here, which makes it a little bit more convenient for mounting things depending on where you're going, especially since it has the power pass-through. So pretty handy. I will have reviews of these coming soon. I just haven't got to them and they already launched, so I wanted to talk about those. Speaking of talking about things, we have a kind of weird subject to talk about for the next topic for today's videos or stream, so I guess let's jump into it. So Patreon was faced with a lawsuit recently from a far-right racist comedian whose name I'm not even going to bother to mention. He got kicked off the platform. He didn't like that, as many people who get kicked off of Patreon do. Rightfully so in some cases, but you know, whatever. And so he was also kicked off of YouTube, Twitter, PayPal, etc. So he had it coming for the most part. But in his frustration and looking for something to do about getting kicked off the platform, he decided to sue Patreon with regards to getting deplatformed by Patreon. Along with that, he encouraged his 72 patrons to also file suits with Patreon, along with him, to claim that it interfered with their economic relationship with their customer or with, you know, their patron on Patreon by having them removed. Now, previously, this was actually allowed, apparently, in some ways, by Patreon's terms of service, but on January 1st, they actually changed it, banning users from filing complaints against Patreon based on other people getting deplatformed. And they also changed the arbitration rules, because previously their terms of service said that Patreon must pay if they are settled in arbitration, which basically means if you have a complaint about Patreon, you must come to their state, which is California, and then sue them in their state on your own dime through the arbitration process, which I can't get into the legal definitions right now, but basically says you have to do all that. And they changed their terms of service January 1st, saying not only can they not file that suit, but they would have to pay the fees, the court fees, for that arbitration process. Well, the court has actually denied their injunction because they basically countersued those 72 patrons. They're like, you can't do this. Our terms of service say no, you need to pay for all this because we're not handling this arbitration nonsense. And the court actually denied their injunction, saying that no, not only does Patreon have to pay those fees, which is about $10,000 per case, so that could be $720,000, but that their terms of service are actually in violation of California law. So the issue here is that if you look up platform or Patreon loses lawsuit, most of what you're going to find, except for like one news article that I found from an actual like news place, most of the news articles you're going to find are from very right-wing or right-leaning organizations, people, what have you, that then claim that Patreon lost the entire lawsuit and that they can no longer deplatform racists or pedos or people that don't deserve it, you know, whatever. They can no longer deplatform people. That's not what actually happened. That lawsuit has not actually been lost as far as any of the information or court filings I can find says. The only thing that they lost was their injunction against that dude's patrons saying that they can't sue Patreon. So they will potentially have to pay a lot of money, and it does set a precedent that their terms of service violates California law, and a lot of companies will be exposed to potential future lawsuits as a result of this, because a lot of companies have this kind of language in their terms of service, and it's apparently illegal. But the idea that Patreon can no longer deplatform people is not the case. Someone says no audio. Check, check, check. Nope, we definitely have audio. You just have it muted. So, unfortunately, this could spell trouble for Patreon. That's a lot of money to pay. That sets up a bad precedent. And I have seen other very right-leaning / basically white supremacist people gathering their followers. Like, literally, some of them were posting and being like, if you have never touched your Patreon account before January 1st, after I got kicked off, get prepared to file a lawsuit. Like, a lot of people are probably going to try to dogpile onto Patreon because of this. Now, I get the feeling that the court that decided that this is not okay is not going to let that happen. They're going to say, okay, we set this precedent. We pointed out the problem. We're not just going to keep letting this snowball because that's stupid. But there will be attempts at this for a little bit. But again, the main idea that Patreon can't, deplatform people or what have you is not that hasn't been removed. And so I don't think that's going to be a problem still. Because people are like, oh, this spells the end for Patreon. You want to pull out now? Got to pull out of Patreon. I don't think that's going to be the problem. I don't think that's going to be what happens. There are going to be people who continue to pull out of it, and that's fine. But ultimately, I think Patreon's probably going to be okay. I will say, though, if you're looking for an alternative, while I'm on Patreon, I am also on Floatplane, where you can get early access to videos and behind-the-scenes content. It's run by Linus Media Group. I can actually try to pull up my page here, although I am not logged in, so that may not be the best of actions. You can click on it yourself. Links in the video description, as always. But I am on Floatplane, where you can, not support Patreon, if that's your choice. That's why I'm on multiple fan funding platforms, because I don't believe in tying myself to a singular one, and it's just the best way to go. So, that's that. Moving on to a topic that I don't know that everyone's going to agree with me on, but I believe YouTube just handed Twitch the keys to success. Or, backwards. Normally that's the answer. Today it's actually the opposite. I think Twitch just handed YouTube the keys to compete with them as a streaming platform. And for better or worse, they come in the form of this man right here. Dr. Disrespect just started streaming about 20 minutes ago on YouTube, and that seems to be his new platform. He's back, and he's going to be streaming there. Whatever you think about him, whatever, it's still a big deal, regardless of whether you support him or not. So, full context, he got banned, I guess a couple months ago now, back in June. Mysteriously, no one still published the reason why. He still hasn't said the reason why. There were a lot of rumors, said that he would never stream again, and then he started teasing that he was coming back, said that he would never go back to Twitch, but that he was returning to streaming. And then, starting yesterday, he did a weird Instagram stream of just his computer with some sounds playing, and then turned that into a full YouTube stream, wherein he streamed for 24 straight hours, up until going live now, to, at most, I saw 335,000 people. It may have gotten a little higher, but after the first hour or so, once people realized he wasn't actually going live today, it started dropping off. But between the constant string of channel memberships that rolled in, as well as the donations and tips that were rolling in for a starting soon screen that was 24 hours long, he made it easily $5,000, which is pretty insane. So that's the context of Doc coming back and all of this. It does seem to be that he is staying on YouTube only at the moment. They did talk about possibly multi-streaming to other websites. They also talked about streaming to his own website. Those will probably come later. He's probably just trying to get back on the air right now, which is probably the way to go. But the thing is there's been this weird thing where people keep talking about that Twitch needs a competitor. And Twitch has had competitors. YouTube, Facebook, Mixer, and none of them have really grabbed the viewership or whatever. I just realized he's streaming to 410,000 people right now. This beats back any of Ninja or Shroud. Shroud hasn't started streaming, but any of Ninja's return streams so far, just to be clear. Although there's the mystery of why he got banned kind of pushing him along here. But Mixer attempted to compete with Twitch by buying a few top streamers for tens of millions of dollars and ended up not getting that success because the viewers didn't really want to come over. It was kind of a turn-off website to some people, and there were a lot of problems with it. Whereas most people already watch streams and content on YouTube, and even if that's not the first place they go, they're clearly willing to move over from Twitch to YouTube to watch their favorite creator, especially when they already have a YouTube channel that they're subscribed to. Doc had like 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube before yesterday. Now he has over 2 million subscribers on YouTube. Those people are clearly willing to watch here. So suddenly, by banning someone on Twitch, especially as silently and just like, we're not going to talk about it as Twitch did, they just handed 500,000 viewers, concurrent viewers, to YouTube. Now, that doesn't mean YouTube's immediately going to be a Twitch competitor. These will fall off as the mystery goes away and as people lose interest in the return or whatever. He will still have a good concurrent viewer base. But what ideally could happen here is that YouTube actually builds up better live streaming tools. I think I heard Courage is actually streaming in sub-only mode at the moment because he doesn't feel like he has the moderation tools that he wants. As long as they build up and improve their live streaming platform, like if they've been waiting for the time to invest, to roll out some new tools or whatever, this is the time to pull that trigger. If they actually can leverage this to launch a new streaming whatever, YouTube could actually really claw back some market share here and really compete with Twitch. This is pretty insane. But what the thing is that Doc is coming back with, as far as anyone's concerned, and I believe one of my featured tabs here is Slasher tweeting about it. Yeah, like neither platform are going to offer him an exclusive streaming deal, which means he can stream everywhere. And one of the points that I end up talking about with Venn in my video essay coming soon is that exclusivity hurts streamers in the end. I think there is a lot of advantage to building up one, core audience on one platform that knows what's going on, and there's a lot of momentum you can gain that way, but ultimately it limits your reach. Doc could multi-stream to Facebook, YouTube, his own site, and freaking Twitter or something right now, get viewers on all platforms, and that only benefits his brand. And that would be incredibly beneficial to virtually anyone. And Twitch is more interested in featuring and just kind of locking down people. For example, one of the ASMR artists just announced that they're going to become an exclusive Twitch streamer now. Twitch is still very much in the exclusivity game, and they seem to have very little interest in, changing that. And weirdly enough, Ninja seems to be playing ball with that. He did a test stream on YouTube. He did a test stream on Twitch recently, where he got less viewers than YouTube, but still very good success, and quote-unquote made affiliate, despite the fact that affiliate has, multiple stream day in a row. He still unlocked it, whatever. But frankly, once you're in that position, unless they're offering you more tens of millions of dollars, you should not agree to any sort of exclusivity. It's incredibly limiting. And in fact, I'm running up against the kind of guardrails of that myself right now, because I would much rather co-stream this show right here, Streamer News, to Twitch and to YouTube. I have a new live show that I'm working on that'll be either weekly or bi-weekly, alternating with Streamer News, that will be Twitch only, but I would have been happy to stream that to Twitch and to YouTube. But since I am an affiliate, I can't do that. And that kind of exclusivity is just extremely limiting for content creators, when literally streaming on multiple platforms means reaching more people and getting more audiences. Well, more people in your audience, to be fair. So I don't know. It's tough. I get the feeling that if no one's giving Doc an exclusivity agreement, he will probably start launching other websites, other streaming places. But I really do think that Twitch essentially handed the keys to success to YouTube. It's up to YouTube whether they run with it or not. They could end up just failing to use them. They could end up just not doing anything with it. It's just sitting there and being like, yeah, we got Doc. Okay. And then nothing else coming from it. But if they really refine their platform a little bit and implement some changes to streaming, this could start the snowball of Twitch actually having competition from YouTube on the streaming space. And YouTube already dominates the VOD space. So this could be pretty big. Moving on to a couple little topics here. If I can find my freaking threads. There we go. A first-person shooter by the name of Ironsight. One that I actually really, really like. It's basically like a generic Call of Duty. But it's not Call of Duty. It's its own game. It wasn't anything super special, but it was a lot of casual fun, and it was free to play. They had just launched on Steam a few months ago. And they have announced that it will be shut down permanently on Monday, August 10th. So in 3 days. However, I'm mainly highlighting this because this announcement, and the company is like Russian, so the translation probably isn't making a whole lot of sense, but they said the servers of Ironsight will shut down permanently on August 10th. But then from August 15th, Ironsight will be published globally by Whipple Games, and they will even be lifting the region restrictions for the game. But they're also saying they're forever closing the game website and forum. So this post says two contradicting things. One, the game is shutting down forever, but also another company will be publishing the game and lifting region restrictions on it. So is the game shutting down forever, or is their specific servers for the game shutting down and the new publisher launching servers for the game? No one knows. No clarification have been given. So if you care about this game, it might be going away in 3 days, or it might be coming back within 10 days. I don't really know. I wanted to provide an update and clarification to our story that we ran last. Xbox was rebranding Game Pass, and they were potentially making Xbox Live free. And then there were some rumors that Xbox Live got renamed to Xbox Online Services. And so they have rebranded Game Pass to just say Game Pass, although these Twitter pages still say Xbox. So they seem kind of pointless. But basically, they just renamed it to Game Pass without the Xbox logo. You know, Xbox Game Pass to Game Pass. But then Microsoft has clarified after some of those leaks came out that Xbox Live will not be going away, and that it is not discontinuing Xbox Live Gold, despite the fact that they got rid of the 12-month pass. So I don't know what that means, if they're rebranding, if they're only selling 12-month passes with Game Pass involved, or if they're just kind of shutting down rumors until the actual announcement comes out. I'm not really sure. Next up, there are some updates to the Discord partnership program. I apparently only have one of the tabs here that I'm supposed to have for it. I will pull up this other one here. Let me do a little something like this. Aha! I was supposed to have the other support article pulled up here. Is this it? Hello? There we go. All right. Preparedness, people. Preparedness. So, Discord has actually updated their partner requirements page to indicate that now you have to use the new community tools introduced last week for Discord, which we've been setting up on our Discord server, evilsfox.gg/Discord, and they have new insights and stuff, and this will be how you end up unlocking Discord Partner. And they have specific requirements for it. You need at least 500 members, you need at least 50 active people, and you need to have at least 100 people who interact with the server at all per week. So 50 chatters per week, and then 50 people who at least lurk, or 100 people who at least lurk per week. And then you need 20% week 1 retention each week for 8 weeks. Now, the insights that they have don't actually go back that far, so it makes me think that they are relaunching this within the next 8 weeks, because it says they're launching it this summer. Summer doesn't honestly have that much longer left. But currently it's still closed. But once it's open again, you will actually apply through the server itself instead of their former partner application. Along with that, which was the other tab I had pulled up here, they have actually sent out emails to existing Discord partners saying that they will be required to maintain their partnership by keeping those partner requirements active. So that means that you need to continue to have 50 active people, 100 people who are viewing or being active, and keeping that retention around. This has made some partners nervous, understandably so, because typically the partnership program has been fairly hands-off. You just kind of got it, and then you sat on it. And then everyone asked why I didn't have it, and then they closed it once I demanded to know why I didn't have it. And so there are a lot of people, like with Twitch Partner Program, who like to get their little verification badge and just sit on it without actually doing anything with it. But I personally believe overall this is a good thing, at least for Discord. I believe that partner programs with any company, platform, social media site, whatever, is supposed to be an interactive process. You are literally partnering with this platform in order to work with them on some level, which means it should be an ongoing basis. It shouldn't just be, oh, I got a check mark and a custom URL, we're done, we'll never talk again. It should be a continued, like, help each other, promote each other, and, whatever. It should be a relationship, and that relationship involves maintenance. It involves maintaining a certain degree of thing. I think it's fairly ridiculous to have a partner program like Twitch's, where you have people who represent your website or platform or what have you, and you don't have some sort of recurring annual or semi-annual or something, basically validation process or evaluation process where you make sure those people are still who you want representing your brand. That seems incredibly irresponsible not to have something like that. And so, like with Twitch's, for example, Twitch's partner program was built up as something you just achieve and then keep as some sort of form of prestige. And it's the only way that you can get, a verification badge and all of that. So I think Twitch, for example, would need to, if they wanted something like this, they'd need to create a higher tier of partner. There could be the basic partner, which is like a slight step up from affiliate where you get the verification badge. But then there's the actual real partner program where you're involved with Twitch. You get free merch. You would get invited to events. You do things actively with the platform where then you are required to maintain certain numbers, even if it's not just raw metrics, but certain behavior standards or what have you in order to stay in it. Because frankly, every social media platform would end up with much less PR issues if they didn't have people representing them that they didn't check up on from time to time. A story that's near and dear to my heart and really frustrating. They finally announced that the actual shutdown date for Google Play Music, which is October. You will still be able to use the program until October, and then your data in it will be available to December if you want to transfer it to YouTube Music or use Google Takeout to download all of your uploaded music and what have you. Usually whenever I open the app in my phone, it would pop up, do you want to transfer to YouTube Music? And that would never work. They do actually have a website where you can transfer it directly there, and that seems to have worked. But my big complaint about it is that YouTube Music uses a YouTube account. It doesn't work, just like YouTube Live TV doesn't. It doesn't work with brand accounts. So my main Epos Vox channel that I do all of my YouTube consumption through, I have to sign out of and sign into my personal account in order to use YouTube Music. Excuse me. Which screws up all of my cookies and sign-in tabs for all of my other tabs for doing YouTube work. And there's no segmentation. No segmentation of that as a separate app in order to keep them separate so that I could sign into it. This was never a problem with Google Play Music. It was never a problem on my phone. And this is a big problem I'm running into with YouTube Music, and it's really kind of frustrating. Also, there are concerns that there's no integrations with Wear OS or the Android Car, Android Auto stuff, which means, once again, YouTube/Google have introduced a new version of a thing without considering all the people and what they're doing with it with the old version, which is kind of frustrating. Next up, I just really quickly wanted to highlight, this is an article on a programming development website about how they started live streaming programming on Twitch from Linux. And overall, it's nothing unique or new or anything like that, but it's just really interesting to see how someone from a completely different side of the community breaks down what you need to live stream, how you should live stream, and things like that. And it's very much laid out kind of like development pages of here's the elements you need, here's how you set it up, here's how I'm going to plan my streams. It's just a very different approach to a lot of game streamers who are just I'm just going to hit go live and do the thing. And so it was an interesting read. And if you are interested in streaming programming or what have you, they have a nice little walkthrough of what they found and what they ran into as issues for themselves. We have a couple little things to end our stream with here today. Unfortunately, this next one is sad. John from Real Hardware Reviews has passed away on Monday. He was going through a lot earlier in the year and had announced his leave from YouTube, and people were hoping that the things would work out, that he would, figure it out. But unfortunately, he passed away on Monday. So big F in chat for that. I embarrassed myself earlier this week because Barnacles had actually responded to a thread that I was in about LTX, and he was in it. And I didn't realize what he was responding about. And so he just said something about never seeing you again. And I was just 2021. And he's like, no, idiot. He passed away. And I was just oh, shoot. That's awkward. So it's really unfortunate. We've had a lot of these situations with the streaming community over the past couple months. And it's really unfortunate. And a lot of people will miss a dear friend, even if never met them in person. But just wanted to share that because apparently a lot of people did not know that. Moving on, of course, Twitch is announcing that your first sub to a channel for the first month will be 20% off until August 31st. Hopefully I will get my new Twitch stream going live by August 31st so we can take advantage of that, or you could go on and sub on Twitch if you like. 20% off for your first tier 1 sub. Desktop only, not available on mobile because mobile will take too big of a cut to make that worth it. FFmpeg is finally getting Cineform encoding. And if you don't know what that is, it probably doesn't matter for you, but the nightly commits have Cineform encoding. Previously, so Cineform is a mezzanine codec, a intermediate codec that is visually lossless. It's not technically lossless, but it's basically lossless. It's very GPU and CPU optimized. So even though it's a massive file size, like an H.264 file could be like 500 megs, and the Cineform file will be like 3 gigs or something like that. It is very massive, but by being massive, it's very optimized, which means pretty much any computer, even slower ones, can play it back really fast without any issues. And it's a really great codec that's kind of in between ProRes and DNxHR. And I use it a lot, especially in my Premiere workflow, but I use FFmpeg for a lot of my video encoding and transcoding needs, but it could only ever read Cineform files. It could never encode to it. Well, now it can officially encode to it, which means we also might get a Cineform encoder possible on OBS as well, which would be pretty cool. This isn't available in the public build yet. I haven't had time to mess with it, but it's there. I weirdly ran into Chuck E. Cheese, which is partnered on Twitch and was streaming Fall Guys yesterday. Apparently they've just been streaming like Animal Crossing and Fall Guys and stuff. It's kind of weird. I don't know what's going on there. It's just gameplay. Like they don't even have any like crazy elements or anything. I don't know what's happening with this. It's just weird. Clearly Chuck E. Cheese isn't handling the quarantine situation very well, which is understandable, but like and then lastly, it was announced yesterday as I was finishing up the show doc that Apex Legends Season 6 got its own teaser. They got a new character, they got a new weapon. The new legend is Rampart. They've got a new boosted battle pass, with more items. There's a new crafting system in the game. Anyone else love the word mezzanine? Okay. They have a new crafting system in the game where you can actually craft better gear within the game itself, which I feel like will make it just even more complicated. Because like, I think one of my moderators put it great. It's like Apex, if you don't hot drop, is basically like 75% looting, 25% fighting. And so this will be like 75% looting, 10% crafting, and then 5% fighting. I don't know. It's really weird. Of course, there will be a new ranked season and then the new weapon Volt, which looks to be an energy SMG. So that will be interesting to play around with. But I am excited to play. That is it for today's live stream. Go check out our sponsors. Go check out the Respawn chair if you're interested in it, or the Bird Dog NDI 4K Flex. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and the chat as we wrap up here. Your thoughts on today's topic. Isorb is calling Chuck E. Cheese Charles Entertainment. Weren't they going out of business? Yeah, I mean, they were. So maybe they got some investment to try to stream on the new Twitch from some investor that had no idea, and this is how they're going to avoid going bankrupt. I don't know. Or maybe someone just owns the rights to or access to Chuck E. Cheese's socials and are just like, I'm just going to use this to build a Twitch profile. We don't really know. It's super weird. Thanks for watching today's episode of Streamer News. I'm surprised as many people tuned in as they did, given that Doc is, of course, actually live. I figured, a big announcement like that would take away some viewership. It doesn't look like he's actually played a game yet, though, so maybe that's part of it. He's just kind of been working up to it. But that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your weekend. Come join us on Discord, eposfox.gg/Discord. We got some cool stuff going. We got some Halo 3 nights planned, and we're making some revamps to the servers that I think you guys are going to like. Yeah, that's about it. See you later. I don't have any sounds or music for today's outro, so goodbye. I gotta make sure it's actually over. It's not over yet. Waiting for YouTube to show that it's over. It's not over until they say it's over. There we go.